Yo, afternoon, greetings and good vibes. How you doing, brother?
I'm good. How you doing, my brother?
I'm good. I can't complain.
I can't either. Even with all the going through this maze of this, what we call life, man.
That part.
What a
Like I
fucking joke.
always say, what is life without strife?
Right, man. And you know what I'm saying? Because if you ain't got no maze, man, what kind of life you got?
For real.
You know what I'm saying? Like this shit. Adversity gives you character. Gives you,
That part.
you know, that's what people don't realize. And I like the adversity. So, but today we are coming. First of all, my name is Chaz, aka the Urban Conservative, and that is Jontel Tolan. Put some respect on it when you say his name. Tolan. You know what I'm saying? And we are today arm yourself with knowledge. And today we are talking about understanding deflection and accountability. That is only one thing that we are talking about. Um, Sorry about the headline. That's not completely the whole truth, nothing but the truth. So help us God. Uh, but we are going to get into some other topics today as well too. It's really just going to be about educating because that's what the Leon
Yeah.
is about.
But
So
honestly, some of these topics kind of actually do fit in with it. And I'm going to tell you why when we get into the stories too. I'm going to make it fit in.
right,
Because,
always.
yeah.
Always. So let's get into this first video, and it is called Neutralizing the Narcissist Blame Shifting Guilt Tripping Tactic. So let's listen because a lot of what we see in this movement is a lot of it's shift blaming. It's putting blame on other people instead of just them looking at themselves. And I'm talking about, and I'm not talking about specific situations, and I'm talking about in life general. Because if people would stop running away from accountability and to get away from that accountability, they deflect, distract, and lie. And that is narcissist behavior. Um, so we see that with, elected officials. We see that with police departments. We see it all around our system. And I think it's something that could be pinpointed more if people were educated on what to look for. So, and these aren't our words. These are people that are trained um, to they get paid to do this shit. So um, we just here to decipher it. So here you go, y'all.
Welcome again, everyone. Getting into this video real quick. I'm going to jump right into it. First of all, I'd like to say thank you all for the support. Thank you for helping to grow the channel. I mean, we've been doing really good now, and we're growing, pushing close to that 80,000 mark. So I want to thank everybody for their contributions and just listen to what I have to say. Anyway, we're going to be talking about narcissists guilt tripping, right? Using the guilt trip tactic on you. Okay. This is very common, and this is one of the things that is used to kind of sustain their position with you in a relationship or a situationship transaction, as I call it. Um,
Meet the brand new Suvi 3.0. The newest magical all-in.
the narcissist is very good, and they have um, the propensity to use this quite often, right? This is basically one of their staples in how they are able to. It's somewhat some gaslighting in there. I can say that there's some gaslighting in that aspect, that they're denying through and through that they had any involvement in anything that happened to went down or went wrong with the situation, right? So what they do, they stick by their guns, and they keep the position of, no, you wronged me, this is why I had to do this, and so forth. Or why did you do that to me? Or you did this to me, you did that, et cetera, right? They're always pointing the finger. And the reason that is because whoever accepts the reality first and chooses to, well, put it this way, if the narcissist can keep you in conflict with them, and most of you will go and argue back and forth with them, trying to prove your point, trying to make you know, a stance against the lunacy that you're being fed at that particular time. If you stand your ground and you fight with them, that's kind of like a win for them, right? The more you fight and try to argue your point back to them when they're speaking something that you know damn well is not the truth, but you're trying to defend it, you're going back and forth with them, and you're really trying to, you know, pinpoint what your facts are to them. You're losing. You're losing. And the narcissist is winning at that point because you don't argue with crazy. Okay? If it's coming off that way and it's craziness and it's pure lunacy, utter foolishness, and you're getting wound up and exerting your energy in this, the narcissist.
I want to stop it for a minute because I want to talk about that. Like,
Mm.
what do you feel like so far? What you've heard, like, how do you see that playing out in today's movement?
In today's movement, I feel like every town, area, municipality, region, whatever that has had their own Dante Ryder, George Floyd, or Breonna Taylor, right?
Right,
I feel like inevitably there's always your characters of a story, right? There's your
right,
hero, there's your villain, there's your this and that, and there's always the narcissist or narcissists. And I feel like birds of a feather flock together. And so
right.
different cliques gravitate based off of the different personality traits that they may have in common, or gaps may get filled based off of who's more dominating, who's more submissive. And I feel like I've seen this play out so many times where the people that know when to speak and when not to speak aren't necessarily heard the most. It's usually the people like that this guy is describing, uh, that are usually the most famous and at the forefront of conversations and whatnot. And that's just my assessment, listening to what he's saying and applying it to the movement.
Right. And honestly, I can say it too because I feel like the way that if you do, uh address it, it just makes the lies even more relevant than even giving it attention. You know?
Our culture focuses on things that are not real or things that are
Right,
disruptive. So
right.
when you have people that drama keeps things going, but
Hmm.
also juicy drama. So when it's stuff that
Right,
are so surreal they don't make sense, um, but it's geared towards a person, place, or thing that people can attach themselves to take themselves off of themselves. Those are the things that get the most attention. Because it's people taking themselves out of their own reality and putting themselves onto someone else. And
right.
it's like plausible deniability on top of it for their
Well,
own lives.
big facts. So we're gonna get back into this VTO. Here we go. Cheerio.
Narcissist is sitting back like, yeah, I got him. I got him going on this BS that they shouldn't even be arguing with me about. But obviously, it must means they care enough to really jump into this argument and put up a fight for their position of what's right in their minds that they feel. Now, the narcissist knows that they're wrong. They know the wrong that they've done. Trust me, they know everything that went on in the situation and they know that they're the cause of it. They do know that. So when they're sitting up there blatantly lying and denying the facts to you, it's so disrespectful. It's so disrespectful on many levels, and to even sit up and argue with that when you know the truth is part of what leads you down that hole. Because the more they deny, you know the story, if you tell a lie long enough, you'll begin to believe it. Well, if you keep listening to someone's lie long enough, you'll begin to believe it too.
Yep.
This is how she started losing weight.
My name is Debbie, and with Noom, I've lost 130.
If you keep entertaining and fighting, many of you want to get in there and really try to sock it to them and go point for point and point on this and that of what happened and why it happened. Look, they already know that. They already know why it went down the way it went down. They know this. There's no need to get into a heated argument or debate with someone who is intentionally denying and lying. As many of you feel that, well, if you just look at it, let's back up. Let's look at this. There's no way this individual can possibly believe that they did no wrong, right? They know better than that. But if they hold their position and never bend or never break on it, eventually you will accept the stalemate. And guess what? We don't accept stalemates with crazy people. That's the worst thing you can do, because that's denying the ability for you to even exercise your own judgment. Insanity, being the same person.
Mm-hmm.
You're taking away your own credibility of being sane by arguing with the lunatic. When you see this behavior, when someone's trying to throw a guilt trip on you in that way with gaslighting and denial, it's lunacy.
Whoops, I need to start unmute myself before I stop the video. But no, they make a very good point, because, I think about all of these, police brutality statements when they come out, and I especially think about George Floyd's, because they call that a medical emergency. Not a critical or that it was police involved, but a medical.
Mm.
You know what I'm saying? So it was automatically, right out the gate that they weren't even trying to take any accountability. No, and they still, that's the crazy part to this day. Well, I can't say that. Yes, they have, to a degree, because Chauvin was convicted. But see, Minneapolis, just because they made a payment, they haven't acknowledged that they fucked up. That they lied to the people. But see, that's because we, the people, don't hold them accountable because we believe the lies.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So that's why, to me, I really wanted to, this episode, I really wanted to talk about, gaslighting, victim blaming, blame shifting, all of that, because it's stuff that we see in the movement. And I think the quicker that we can see it and point it out, we can get further along, man, as in unified. So, but we got about 5 more minutes in this video. So
this is the fundamental basis of psychosis. And when you engage in it and you start, this is why many of you feel like you're losing your mind too. Because you're sitting up there entertaining this foolishness. And it is up to you to be able to say, you know what, wait a minute, I'm not going to even argue. I'm not gonna argue with this shit. I'm out of here. Okay? And that's the way it has to be.
Mm-hmm.
Cut it off right then and there. If you see any of that where they're throwing a guilt trip on you, they come back, oh, you did me this and this and that, and you know damn well it didn't operate like that. It didn't go down like that.
Right.
Don't even say another word to them. Just go on and keep it moving. Because this is the main thing that they play on by always, you know, where they feel that they can be entitled to come back. They try to ruin your life. They try to, you know, they've disrespected you. They've done all this stuff. And then come back as though nothing has happened, right?
Mm-hmm.
Or try to.
Yep.
Or they're in the situation with you and expect for things to just go back to normal.
Mm-hmm.
And they completely deny all faults. They don't want to hold and be accountable because, see, to be accountable, when one knows that they've done and they're the perpetrators of the wrong that has been done, for one to be accountable means that one is they're the person that has they're the liability at that point.
So I'm here on Wall Street and I'm asking people if they know what these letters mean.
Talk to you later.
Great. So
And you don't want to deal with liabilities. That's what gets you in trouble. And so by them knowing that they're the issue, they're the problem, and that they're going to keep making these mistakes, that they're going to keep having this go on and on over and over again. By them knowing that, they have to not claim accountability for their actions.
Mm-hmm.
Because the moment that they do is when they've lost.
Right.
And they have no ability at that point to alter your perception to truth, because that is what you must stand in at the end of the day, is truth. And that is what you must grab on a hold to pull yourself up out of that situation, no matter what. I say it all the time, no tampering with the evidence. The moment you see someone completely in denial about what they know that they've done wrong and what you know they've done wrong, cut it off. Don't even stick around for an explanation or anything else.
Mm-hmm.
Cut it off. Because it gets worse. It definitely gets worse. Anyway, I want to thank you all for listening, tuning in. Please make sure you show your support, guys. I put a lot of this stuff out. You know, this is what keeps me going and on here to bring this information to you.
Yeah. So we're gonna cut that right there. Damn. That was some food for thought.
Yeah.
I'm maybe not for you.
Back in a place. Huh?
I said maybe not for you, didn't give you food for thought because you're a little articulate.
It's something that deeply resonates with me and kind of is a little puts me back in a place that I've worked hard to get away from.
Yeah, you know it's crazy, man, because as dude was speaking, man, it made me not even just about, like, I tried to personalize it, but really I looked at it on a bigger realm and seen it was like, God damn, how do people not realize this? It's like, it's a never-ending cycle because we get it in all forms. We get it from our leaders who say they're here to make change and make it better for everybody. And then you get it from the people that you go elect, you go vote for, the people that you're supposed to, when you pick up the phone and call 911, or you go to the hospital. It's all the same, you know, the same thing. I feel like, you know, it's like that's why they see. And I'm going to break it down even the medical terms and stop me if you think if I'm wrong. But when they look at black people and we go for, like, let's say pain medications, because they think that black people have a stronger pain tolerance, or they might think that, oh, they're wrong. They're just
Statistics show that they
right,
literally think this.
right,
And it
or
goes
that
all
it's
the way back
real.
to Darwinism and all of that. You could trace it back to that. You could trace it back to eugenics. All of those things, they literally deem us as, but it's also why they harvest our organs more so, and they're always testing us. The woman who's still alive, if I'm not mistaken, the black woman who they took her DNA or something of her without her consent.
Right.
I can't remember her name. I want to say it's like Henrietta or something.
Right. No, Henrietta, they just did a lawsuit about that.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
I know what you're talking about, where they didn't even, right. That shit weirded me out a little bit. I forget the whole thing about it, though. Let me look it up.
Henrietta Lacks.
Lacks. I know it's started with an L.
American woman whose cancer cells are the source of the HeLa cell line. So they used her cells without her knowledge at first. And we could talk about one of the Move family members, or two of them, I believe, their bones being used for examination and whatnot without the family's consent. Black people have always been up for experimentation, not just black people, indigenous people as well.
Right.
And especially here in the US. And it gets smeared under the rug. I don't even remember how we got on this topic, but
no, it's no, because to me, man, here's the thing of it is, and I don't think people fully understand, is that just because we're talking about one thing, they all go together.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? And that's the one thing that we definitely, I believe that we got to start pointing out, is that this all intertwines. And that's one thing that I'm learning, is that all of this shit intertwines together. It doesn't matter if you're in a police brutality fight, you're in a gun violence fight too. Mm-hmm. You're also in the bettering the educations, stable housing, because that's how we end police brutality. That's how we end gun violence, is educating and allowing people to understand what the fuck is really going on. Because if more people would actually wake up, since they want to say they're woke, mm-hmm. they would understand this. We wouldn't have to be talking about things like this, and that's why they gave us Rosa Parks instead of Claudette Colvin. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? Like, people really got to think bigger. That's why they gave us Martin instead of Malcolm.
Talk about it.
You know what I'm saying? Like, and that's no disrespect to Martin Luther King. No disrespect. But I'm gonna call it what it was. He wasn't for us. He sold us out.
I will say this. I disagree in a sense, because at the end of his career, why he was killed was because he noticed that it wasn't just the black struggle, it was all our struggle. If we were to get what we needed to get,
right,
everyone, all poor people had to unite, because it was a unified struggle, and we were being kept compartmentalized. And he only had the experience of a black man, so he only saw it from the black point of view, that yes, we're at the bottom of the barrel, we haven't gotten anything, but there are other people that have gotten something, but are made to only have something, just a little, so that they can look at us and think that they have better than us, so that they think they're better than us. It's a whole scheme. So by the end of his career, by the end of his life, he was looking at the grand scheme of things and saying, how can we abolish all of this and start anew, fresh, with everybody coming together? And they can't have everybody coming together. That's why they killed him, because he saw that we needed, all of us, all poor people needed better jobs. And he also saw, at the end of the day, statistically, that black people were still so few of a community that we needed white people's help and awareness to help amplify our story and position.
But see, that's where I disagree. No, and I don't mean to cut you off, but that's where, like, I disagree with, because I feel like a lot of the stuff that we're dealing with today, he didn't educate us. Malcolm was trying to educate us on these tactics, that it's chess not checkers playbook type of thing. And Martin wasn't trying to educate. And I get, maybe at the end he was, but at that time it was already too late, because they'd already ran with his narrative. Mm-hmm. with his uneducation, and that's what they throw at us. They throw at us the uneducated, not let's say uneducated, right? Let's say undereducated Martin, where we see, because they don't ever want to bring up the jailhouse letter. They don't ever want to talk about really the later, right before he died stuff. They always want to go back to "I have a dream."
Right.
And
That's because it fits their narrative.
Their narrative, right?
Way. That's the
Right.
part that we get in the history books, but that's literally just one tiny little sliver of a facet and a line that people take out of the rest of that poem, of the speech. If you listen to
Right.
the rest of that speech, he's talking to what we just talked about. He's not just talking to, like, I feel that line is very subservient and submissive in a lot of ways, and that's why white people take to it.
Right.
It's the good docile boy. You know,
Well,
it's not the man speaking truth and power that
Right.
everyone actually resonates with. Because if you listen to that whole poem, that whole speech, it's something that more so will resonate with everybody, but it is pro-black, you know.
Right.
And that's the part that white people don't know, especially those Fox News people that continue to regurgitate that one
and I'm
line.
glad you went there before I
The rest of
could.
that speech.
I'm glad you went there before I could, because I want to, like, I'll even bring up affirmative action, because we have a few black people that come out and say that, oh, you know, affirmative action isn't a good thing. We don't need it. But even though affirmative action helped them be the people that they are today, because I'll tell you right now, and for me, this is how I feel, is Clarence Thomas wouldn't be sitting at the Supreme Court justice if it wasn't for that Yale diploma that sits in the basement. Because that's where it sits. He's not even proud of it, but he wants to tout that he's from Yale. Right. But see, affirmative action helped him receive it and not merit. And when people don't do their research and their homework on people, because all you had to do was go read the new book.
Just think about it. After that decision went down, there were at least 4 different black women that were at the helm of different departments and major Fortune 500 companies that were let go from their positions the day after that decision was handed down. And it wasn't a coincidence. These people,
no, it wasn't, because they weren't up there because of merit. Like, everybody thinks that we can get there because of merit. That's not possible. And I'm going to tell you why it's possible, because we don't know our rights. Because there's this thing called constitutional colorblindness. But we don't know that because we're not educated. Nobody, and I'm not talking when I know you're not, I don't even, shut up, Chaz, because I'm not even about to say this. But people don't want to educate. They would rather us be enchained. That's why I feel like when we sit here and we say these things, you know, no justice, no peace, it's a deflection of really getting to the core of the issue. Are whose streets? Our streets? Because when we go out there, it's not our streets, because we don't take over the streets.
Right.
We do, but we don't. You know, we don't take over. We just, let's make sure there's one lane so the bus can get. Fuck the bus.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Fuck that bus.
Nonviolent, disobedient disruption means that you're blocking that street because you don't want the bus to get through, because you're trying to prove a point.
Right.
That's the point.
Like, I don't even understand that. And there's always been blowback to that type of action when people weren't getting on the buses back in the I forget what it was, the Alabama bus boycott. Montgomery
was in
bus
the
boycott.
early 60s, right?
Right. So you had people that would literally, they made it harder. So then people were doing taxis. Well, they weren't allowing black people to do that. They weren't giving them taxi license. They weren't doing this. They weren't doing that. So they were deflecting. So they were trying to make them get back on the bus so that they could have control. And I know I'm probably not explaining this in the best terms, but I hope people can really, really understand it, of that sometimes we have to do things that we feel like we're told that aren't right, but is right. It is morally right. It might not be lawfully right, but that's because of man. That's because of somebody's perspective that maybe was been dead 100
Are
years.
you referring to the affirmative action decision?
I'm just everything, because it all goes back to me. We got to go back if we're going to talk about affirmative action. If we're going to talk about civil rights, we have to go back until the start of America. We have to go back until 1776. We have to go. Why do we have the 13th Amendment? Why do we have the 11th Amendment, the 12th Amendment? Because when America started, there was how many amendments? There was how many? 10. There was only 10. They added, or maybe there was 12. Maybe it was 10 or 12. But all this other stuff has been added. The 13th Amendment was supposed to free us, but it really didn't. The 14th Amendment only enslaved us. And that's what I learned today. I literally, the 13th Amendment freed us, but the 14th Amendment slaved us. And I never understood that. An attorney had to break that down for me, because that's where it comes in, where innocence isn't enough to overturn a conviction.
See, and I see 13th Amendment as the back door to re-enslavement.
Right. Man, the way that she broke it down, and maybe I'm not breaking it down right.
Ava DuVernay in the 13th.
No, it's the lawyer's name is Kim Carell. I actually spoke with an attorney this morning who kind of laid it out for me, because we were talking. She's an attorney in Ohio who does wrongfully convictions, and she's actually Robert Davis's attorney that I interviewed Monday, because she was breaking down his case for me. And that's what really made me want to get into deflection and accountability, because there's already been accountability in Robert's case, but he's still sitting in prison and he's innocent. You know what I'm saying? Or we have cases like Tyree Nichols, or we have cases like Eric Holmes, or Richard Risher, or Muhammad, or Jalen Walker, where people are deflecting from accountability.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what I want people to notice, these things, so we can call them out and that we can get back focused. And I know my brother's got some stories that intertwine with this, so I'm going to shut the fuck up and let him do his thing, so that way I can give my bad cop, because he a progressive and I'm a conservative, so I'm the bad guy and most of this shit.
I mean, I guess I call myself a commie.
I'm making funnies. I'm making funnies. You know how they say good cop, bad cop. I'm just trying to break it down.
Hold on, why is this not okay? Here we go. Right. I want to what should I start with? Okay, I want to start with world news and some things that's going on, because we here in our country like to stay distracted. Our country and our media likes to continue to distract us from things that are going on. So I want to remind y'all a little bit about what's going on.
For war. No other reason. The biggest story in the world happened this week in Moscow, and your mainstream media ignored it. This week, Xi Jinping and Vladimir Putin signed 14 different documents in their face-to-face meeting. The biggest had to do with trade and currency. It's perhaps the biggest story in the world right now.
And I've been talking about this, y'all,
with something else
for months.
Away from becoming the first former president to be indicted.
Donald Trump is under multiple criminal inquiries. The media wants you distracted from the U.S. banking crisis and the decline of the U.S. dollar. Saudi Arabia and Iran, Sunni and Shiite Muslim, are sworn enemies. They hate each other. And yet China just brokered a peace deal between them. Yes, China did that, not the United States. And then this week, Saudi Arabia openly talking about settling their oil trades in the Chinese currency yuan. This would replace the U.S. dollar. They would replace the petrodollar, the U.S. dollar that we use as a hammer to sanction any country we like. If the U.S. doesn't like you and wants to sanction you, they can, because if you want oil, you'll need to pay with U.S. dollars to settle that transaction. Imagine if the U.S. can't threaten you with dollars anymore. All they have left are weapons, and there's nothing more dangerous than a person losing power. What I'm about to show you is arguably the biggest story in the world right now, in my opinion, but it's being totally ignored by the mainstream media. So the United States just announced it's getting ready for a war with China and Putin at the same time for a very important reason.
So I want to talk about this a little bit because we have been talking about this. I'm used to people not listening to things that we say here. But with this story, connect the dots because the digital currency is being geared up. The value of our dollars decimated. And think about what he's speaking about when it comes to the oil. Everything that he stated in this little excerpt, you can go look up, and people all over have been talking about all these very same things that he's announcing and talking about for months now. But I don't see it trending on anything here in our country. And when I bring it up to people, they're like, "Huh?" And they kind of look at me like I'm crazy. But the rest of the world is up to game on this shit. Did you know about any? Because I've been talking to you about this, Chaz, but I don't know if you actually listen. I don't know if Matt has heard me about this either. But
No, I might not speak on it, and the only reason why I don't speak on it is because I don't fully understand it. And yeah, there's not enough to me. It doesn't get talked about enough because I don't believe that people actually. I don't think they fully understand how much what other goes on in the world actually affects us here in America. And I
or
think
more so what our country does in the world.
Right.
That they
that
don't
part
tell
too.
us that they do.
That part.
Right. Because the rest of the world is heavily affected and influenced by everything we do. And basically what is happening is the rest of the world is saying, no, we're done. We're shutting you out. This is no longer your show. Do what you want.
Right.
That is basically what is happening.
Nope.
And also preventing our country from essentially dominating things in the way of leverage by, you can't have these things and we're not going to let you buy from anyone. You're cut off from the world. They essentially won't be able to do that anymore.
Right.
It's like a domino effect that's going to happen. So like, countries that have sanctions like North Korea, Cuba, you might see them be able to work more with other countries that don't regulate themselves via the US dollar. The US dollar was the world currency, was
Right.
the World Bank currency. So anyone that had to do dealings with stuff had to do it in the US dollar. That is no longer true anymore. Most are switching to the yuan, the Chinese dollar, as the predominant world source of currency. And I think this is probably a big blow to the US and their pride and whatnot. But this is something that so many different experts have seen coming, and our government's kind of in denial. I want to go to this.
Our government, no, these weirdos out here is in denial.
These weirdos are in denial because our government made them and raised them to be ignorant and be in denial. But it's our government that's the ones that's in denial. Whether they know what's going on, but they're openly being in denial because then it enables a whole country of deniers.
Right.
Shit, ain't nothing new. They've been doing this for at least since they've been doing it prior to the 50s, but the 50s is when they started like perfecting this kind of shit.
Right.
I'd say from the 50s to the 80s.
I definitely agree with that.
Yeah. I know we haven't talked about this woman in a while, and honestly, we should be talking about her because she's doing her thing. But y'all won't hear about this, so I wanted to highlight it. Sha'Carri Richardson finally beat the fastest woman in the world, and you ain't heard one word about it on Facebook. Now, I'm sure y'all haven't, so let's make this go viral. Congratulations. Look at this. First of all, look at all those U.S. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 U.S. runners. That's dope. And then where is it? I want to see what this brother's talking about. All right, where's it at? Okay.
A while ago, I did a post, and in that post, I put that I asked the question is about racism, and I ended up stating that 80% of whites were racist. And I think the question was about the police. Why do 80% of white folk support the police when they abuse black people in a black neighborhood? And I came to the conclusion that 80% of white folk are racist. Okay, now here's how I arrived at that conclusion, because I've been getting a lot of blowback on that. Some people say, oh, isn't that kind of high to say 80%? Well, you got to remember that there are different levels of racism.
Mm-hmm.
You got
covert, overt.
A certain percentage of white people that are outright racist. They're white supremacists. They think everybody that don't look like them, that isn't white like them, is beneath them, less than them, not worthy of protection from law, and can be mistreated at a whim. That's the top level of racism within the white people. And then there's the other group of white people that they won't come out and say they're racist. They'll try to play nice with you. And as long as you keep your place, you know, you're a fun little Negro. You're easy to be with. You don't make no waves. They tolerate you. They accept you. You can even come over their house for dinner. And they may show their racism when it comes time to vote. In the secrecy of the voting booth, they will vote for these outright racist candidates. And so this is yet another level of racism. And then you've got another level of racism where white folk will chill with black folk. And they hang out with you. They grew up with you. Yet there's a small part of them in their mind where they will revert to white racism when the chips. For those who are watching, suddenly I lost my connection. But as I was saying, they're gonna stop playing with me again, I guess. Every time I get on this subject, suddenly I start losing my connection. But as I was saying, that the lower level of racism is white folk that will chill with black people. You know, they like being with us. They even adopt some of our music. They adopt some of our cultures. But when the chips are down, when the chips are really, really down, some of them show their true colors. Like sometimes it shows itself when somebody in their family, maybe one of their chips.
So I want to get into this. I want your thoughts, and there was a reason why I brought this up, but I want to hear your thoughts on it.
Man, I've been said this shit. He broke it down in a better terms.
Mm-hmm.
That's literally what he's saying is Negrophobia.
Right.
I literally see Negrophobia, how they say they got that one black friend, but then will look at me and be like, oh, but he a nigger.
Yep.
What do you mean? So it's okay because, you know, that's what I never understand, because people will say that about me, but then the person that they want to consider that one black friend is bigger than me, got more tattoos than me.
Mm-hmm.
So what makes me more scared is because I'm more vocal.
Mm-hmm.
That's all it is. I'm more vocal. That's what scares you. I'm vocal. I tell the truth.
I think what triggered people was that caption, but we live in a country of prejudices, but our nation was also founded under white supremacy and on racism.
Right.
A whole class of people of a certain complexion were relegated to perpetual enslavement for a time. So
But you know what though? I'm gonna be honest, right? And because why I call it Negrophobia instead of just calling it racism, because I still call white supremacy, but when it comes to individualized people, I prefer Negrophobia, right? And I'm going to tell you why. Because when phobias we can be unscared of with education or overcoming our fears, right? So if people just won't face the facts that we're all the same and just have conversations and see people as the same.
This is the way I see it. We all drinking and eating the same racist American soup. We fucking pancake syrup is racist. The TV is racist. We walk down the street. There's racism on the signs. There's racism. It's embedded in like flour into cake in our society. We cannot escape it. So if we deny it, we're being liars. To be American is to be racist. They're synonyms as far as I'm concerned. And that's where I take from what he's saying. If you identify as white, it's to accept that you're accepting racism as.
But that's the thing of it is, who's white?
Right, exactly. What it means to be white, because white people don't ask themselves what it means to be white. But when I ask people, what does it mean to be white? They look at me with this flabbergasted look like, oh, I've never thought about that. Well, what do you identify as then?
I have to sit there and ask them what their grandparents are.
Prejudice ideology of how America sees itself.
No, you know how I trick them?
Racism is baked into that. I'm not talking about someone that has grown up for generations and they may live in America for generations, but they still claim their Italian heritage or their Polish or their Greek heritage. I'm not talking about those people. They have an ethnicity and a culture to adhere to. I'm talking about the white people that are white people and that condone racism and pass it on every single day. And a lot of times it is very much ignorant and unwilling.
Okay, but you make a great point about where I'm about to go into, because who is the 80% of that people? Because I'm gonna break it down to, I even believe it's a bigger number than that. I'm gonna be 100. To me, that number is bigger than that, because white people don't even understand their own culture.
Right.
Because white isn't a culture.
Right.
It's a color, right? Because when you go back, we all came from somewhere. So they're either English, they're either Swedish,
right,
Finnish, what is Switzerland people? Swiss, right. You're either French, you're Indian, Spanish. Come on, man. Like, people don't even think about it.
People forget German, that Spanish people are European.
Irish,
Spanish,
you know what I'm saying? Like, white ain't. These motherfuckers act like, because, oh, I'm white. No, what are you? I'm white. No, you're not. What are you? Are you Irish? German? Or maybe you even might be Jewish.
Well, that's my point. A lot of people do know, but a lot of people don't know.
Right, because you got to trick them to actually get them to even understand that they're not white. It took, I don't know how long it took my wife, because I'm like, what are your grandparents? I don't know. I'm like, where'd they come from?
You got to understand that's most of white America.
Right.
That does not know. I mean, now it's more common where people are taking the initiative to learn their heritage, but it's still
not
very
everybody.
Common for,
I wish more people would.
And it's crazy because 100 years ago that wasn't the case. Everyone knew their ancestry in that sense. Like,
and you know what's crazy is I do, and I need to go back and find this video, because, and it only made me think about it right now, is that those DNA testing where you could find out your ethnic or breakdown or whatever, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you notice how most people have black in them somewhere down the line.
Yeah.
It kind of me, you see this big ass push for reparations. Well, how are we supposed to pay everybody? You get what I'm saying?
I feel and I think that they're going by like some kind of cutoff of percentage though.
Right. I hope so.
It's not based off of the one drop.
Right. I hope so.
Like I think you
Because
have
everybody coming back with some
you
type
have
of
to be a
black in it.
50% makeup or more. Like that town that I was talking about at the beginning of this, there's a city outside of Chicago, Evanston, Illinois, that has paid out so far 10 recipients, but they're looking to pay out 140 recipients, and they are giving them $25,000 each. Now, these recipients had to qualify. So I want to know what was the qualifications for being able to get these these reparations.
Right. Were you asking me a question?
No.
Oh, I was gonna say because I was trying to break something down because I learned something even messing around with like DNA with my kids, and because I wanted to break down with me being, my dad is black, my mom is white, and then my child's mother being white, and then me being mixed. I wanted to see of like how that broke down, and I was actually kind of surprised. But then when I really thought about it, I understood it. Because so like my kids are 33, I would think they would be 25% black, but they're 33. Just like when it comes to my mom and my dad, with them overtaking, because my mom is German and Irish.
Mm.
I'm more black than I am white when it comes down to my DNA. Because my mom is two different ethnic groups. My mom is Irish and German.
Right.
So it was, that's two different cultures. That's two different backgrounds, understanding. So it even plays out over here if we look
But
at.
I mean, with black too, it's the same thing.
Right.
There's even more. Okay, so Africa has I think over 200 different ethnicities and what they deem races, compared to Europe's like a lot smaller, but still a lot of different ethnic groups too.
Again, you're making a great point for me of that. Even when it comes down to being African or being black, there's a lot of these that come back that these people were either previous tribes, or some of these tribes don't even exist anymore.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So I think it gets caught up, and that's why I think I hope that there is it's got to be a certain percentage, because there is, when you do them DNA testing. I've been looking at people's, and damn, I'm like, man, y'all might as well just consider yourself mutts.
Oh yeah, we all are. And I keep telling you, descendants of African slave enslavement here in America are only 65% African descent at most.
Right.
So yeah, we all are mutts. We all are biracial to some extent. That's why I say black, because it's different than saying African. When I say black, I mean that I'm admitting to all of my ancestry here in America, indigenous, white, African, all of it,
So do you believe that there's a difference between you and then, let's say, a Somalian or Ethiopian or Nigerian?
Very much so. There's a very big difference.
I just wanted to see, because I was in this Twitter space last night.
Yes. But I'm a black person, a black American.
Big difference. Thank you. And that's what
have anything in common but complexion.
Right. And that's what the crazy part of it is. Why don't people want to at least acknowledge that? because
A
just
lot of
because you're
people,
black doesn't make you.
maybe not in Minnesota, but where I'm over here on the East Coast, we do.
Yeah, man.
But we also have a lot of different more ethnicities over here than I think y'all do over there. But
and that's the
it's a
problem.
heavy,
Yeah.
hot topic here because we black people,
We get bunched in
fit
with
to
everybody.
separate ourselves from all the Africans as best as possible. So it's like a very big point of contention between like it's beef between our community and those communities a lot, at least from what I see going on.
No,
the only time
I
we,
definitely agree with that.
from my perspective, the only time we like Africans is when we listen to Afro beats.
I ate their
or when
food.
we want some fufu.
Right, I ate their food.
Right, like I'm just saying.
And to be honest, man, like I love Somalian food. I love Nigerian food. I love being able to go experience where my ancestors came from, even if it just is food.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? I love that, and I hate the fact that like in Red Wing, you know, where I'm staying right now, is can't even get no soul food. You know what I'm saying? Like you can't even just go get the type of food that you want because at the end of the day, the city isn't geared towards having other cultures here. You know, there's a ton of
I mean, I'm in the
Mexican,
same boat right
Hispanic
now too.
restaurants, huh?
I'm in the same boat right now too.
Right, you know what I'm saying? Because you go into these outer areas and there's less when there's less black people, you have them lesser options. You have them lesser, you know, you can tell the difference when you go to the hospital. You can tell the difference when you go to the school district. You know, people that are when you see the police departments. Fuck, they ain't no black officers. They've had one black officer on the force in the last 20 years.
Mm.
You know what I'm saying? So it's like that ain't no help coming anytime soon there. Not that I mean shit, not that being black they're gonna do any better, but yeah, man, it's like until we can actually be seen as equals as everybody else, you know what I'm saying? Because it shouldn't take affirmative action for people to be a CEO or to be a director or to be a president, because it should go off of merit. It shouldn't, you know, color shouldn't even be on a job application. To be honest, what does color matter?
Right.
That shouldn't even be. It's not in Minnesota. It's not on a driver's license. It ain't even on a birth certificate no more. So why the fuck should it matter on a job application?
Yeah.
Why should it matter on a resume? Because they don't give a fuck what color you are. They just want to call us anything now anyways. It's about to be everybody BIPOC. Tell me I'm wrong.
Mm-hmm.
Tell me I'm wrong.
I know.
Tell me I'm motherfucking wrong. Motherfuckers don't even want to be called Negro. They about to get rid of the NAACP. Who's black anymore? Oh, I'm being for real. I'm asking you, who the NAACP gonna fight for? Because ain't no more black people.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Right.
You know,
I still find it interesting. It's called NAACP. I'm not colored.
Right. But even like with BLM, well, who they gonna fight for when ain't nobody considered black no more?
Their pockets.
What?
I said their pockets.
That part.
Well,
they fight for their pockets and fill them.
All right. No, should be crazy, though.
I'm going to share my thoughts on social justice organizations since I joined on this stream late. I feel like, yes, we can't trust them because of the financial situation with the fact that they're always pocketing the money that people donate that are supposed to go to families. But at the same time, they do help us in one way or another, and that's the fact that it brings attention to things that normally would have never gotten attention.
So let me ask you a question. So because they make awareness to stories, that just negates all the negative shit that they do.
No, it doesn't negate any of the negative.
But in your sentence, I want you to break it down because that's literally what you just said in your statement.
the reason why I said that is because I mean I can give you an example of an area where their statement actually made people talk about like social justice and other types of topics again when those topics were dead in the community and nobody wanted to talk about them.
Right.
Right.
Like that's the only thing I'm trying to say. Is like
Well, no, because
awareness is important. And your amplification is important, and so I do agree with you on
if
that.
that awareness came from somewhere else, that would be amazing.
Right.
Other than these organizations.
I'm gonna be the double-edged sword here, right? Because the same thing that we sit here and we talk about police, right? How we pinpoint the bad shit they do, and what do well, I'm not even gonna say that. What do Republicans and don't know conservatives? I can find you as many conservatives that call out the police, just as many as progressives and liberals and whatever. So I'm gonna say Republicans and police lovers that will sit there and be mad when they kill a dog,
right?
But not when they kill a black man,
right?
At the same time, Democrats will defend police killing people too. So.
Right. And that's what's totally crazy to me, because I'll tell you right now, if I don't see BLM, if I don't see the NAACP, the ACLU, the DOJ, the FBI, the CIA, all these alphabet boys get in an uproar when they charge this officer, I don't think they are.
Like the facts are that, like in 2020, we all thought, well, the majority of this nation thought that the system was one-sided and it was run by basically Republicans that support police killing people. But 2 years into 2 years past George Floyd, I feel like I'm getting more of a feel for how both sides of politicians defend police brutality. I really am. And where I'm from is a perfect example of that, because there's a guy that's running for mayor who was a former district attorney. He's a Democrat, and he defended the police union slaying of a unarmed 15-year-old kid. A Democrat. So that proves to me that both sides are not deserving of our trust as we the people. Neither side.
But break it down though. Why? Because to me, that I love your perspective, but I want you to break it down even more, because to me, I can tell you why. To me, why I feel like both parties ain't shit, and
exactly.
and they're both really, and you got a coin, right? There ain't no difference. You can just flip it, and it's still the same shit, right? It's still a quarter. It's still 25 cents. That's the same thing that I see with Democrats and Republicans, is that
two sides of the same
motherfucking coin, right? So why, when we sit there and we saying we're voting for the lesser of two evils, what the fuck are you even meaning? Because it's the same coin.
Exactly.
How about we put the coin down and pick up a dollar?
Right. That's all that matters. We're wishing to flip it either heads up or heads down.
Both sides will lie to you if they know they're getting paid.
Yep. Always.
Yep.
That's always how it's been, but we have leaders that don't want to call it out because they're getting paid to be quiet.
Exactly.
We feel like there's an activist or what? Because here's my thing of it is, and I really just started to realize this recently, is why do we know names like Ben Crump? Why do we know names like Al Sharpton, or even because today is Terry Willis Day in Minneapolis, right? Why do we even know these big so-called activists? But yet we have no change. So why is it that we know them?
Matt, you want to answer?
I actually don't even know what to say. I'm trying to think of something to say.
Why do you see some hashtags and not some others so much?
I almost feel like, and you guys can correct me if I'm wrong, I almost feel like there was a need more for these types of social justice advocates in the past more than there is a need for them now. Because in the past, we were at a time in America where we had segregation, we had all these other different divisions that were right in our faces.
Right.
And like with all of that in your face divisionary content, you kind of need somebody like Ben Crump or Al Sharpton back then to change the
See,
narrative. But at this point, but what I'm saying is, at this point in America, we don't need those two, because it's like we've developed independent reporting. We didn't have that in the 50s and 60s.
I don't think I agree with you in the sense that I don't think we need necessarily, the kind of leaders that we had in the 60s today. However, our society has become obsessed with celebrities. And so they look up to the Tamika Mallory's and the Candace Owens, even, for some kind of inspiration.
Who are the same? They're both
right to coalesce
women,
their opinions to, so they don't actually think for themselves. They're just regurgitating shit they heard on TV from their favorite celebrity. So that's why I don't like the idea of having leaders necessarily today. I want an underdog. I want the unknown person to come up and stand for me and say.
And who is that?
In my head,
the impacted families.
Random Tamika from the hood that we've never heard of because she's too busy fighting all the fucking time.
The impacted families, the people that are impacted by this fucked up ass system,
right?
And they're not getting paid by it.
But when I'm talking about Tamika on the block, she's getting impacted by this system just as much as an impacted family is. Just in a
that's not what I'm.
I know, but we're talking about two different sides of it, but they still just as valid. You feel me?
No, but I'm not talking. I'm talking about the impacted families that aren't being paid.
Right.
I'm talking about the impacted families that are out here making change, making reform, all on their own without no alphabet boys behind them. That's what I'm talking about. You know what I'm saying? And to get back to what, the celebrities and that shit was it's all designed this way.
Yep.
It's designed this way because, and I'll tell you right now, I love everybody, right? I don't hate on anybody. I might have a different outlook or view when it comes to certain things, but that has to do because of children, not to do because I dislike or gay people or I almost said homophobic. I wasn't about to say homosexual, but like it has nothing to do with that. It's the fact that we sitting here. You go back to everything that I learned, to the people that I consider my leaders, like Malcolm X and them. There wasn't no such thing as called cisgendered, and I know I'm fucking opening a fucking can of worms right now.
But I'm gonna be honest. At one point I looked at Ben Crump and Al Sharpton as people that basically were role models that got me.
Yeah, me too.
But since I've been an activist, I don't look at them as role models anymore. I look at this page as a role model. I look at you guys as role models because we sit here and we shoot the shit, and we sit here and make sure that we know where each other's coming from.
You know what's crazy is, don't thank me, thank the families that don't even thank the impacted people that see what we're doing and who have educated us. That's what I do, because I'll tell you right now that I have not been so much educated in the last 2 weeks with a better way to fight this system than from people that have been impacted. I'll keep it 100, because I'll tell you right now, I never heard of Ben Crump talking about no defensive life doctrine. I didn't learn that from him. And he's an attorney. I learned that from an impacted family who learned that if we're going to change the system, we got to go at certain things. So we got to go at qualified immunity. We have to go at the defensive life doctrine.
You know what their jobs are? I finally figured it out. You know what their jobs are as far as people? Their jobs are to bring the attention to the left-wing media, and that's about it. That's it. It's not to get justice. It's not to fight for justice. It's literally to advertise their run to help people. It's advertising. Does that make sense?
I get where you're coming from. I definitely do.
I don't. I ain't gonna lie. I can't because and the thing of it is because I want him. No, because I want him to learn. Because I love I love you, Matt.
Yeah.
We brothers, you know what I'm saying? And that's the one thing of like I honestly what I find so courageous in you is that you one of them, once you know better, you do better. And you want to know better. You know what I'm saying? Because I remember when we first met, and I know I want people to know we've never met face to face. I don't believe we have anyways.
I've never been out to Minnesota.
Okay, so I ain't never been out to the Massachusetts. Not even to visit, I don't think.
I've never been to Pennsylvania, so I've never met either one of you in person.
Right.
I feel like y'all are both family, even though I never met you.
Right.
But one of the things that I found courageous about you is that one of your mentors is Frederick Douglass, an abolitionist. And it was like a fresher breath there because that's not, especially for somebody that was in the Black Lives Matter movement, because that's somebody that's not brought up. And if he is brought up, it's more around like Juneteenth days or, Black history. It's never something when we're in.
One thing that's wild is you wouldn't believe how many things in our society were created by abolitionists. You wouldn't believe. A lot of the foods we eat were created by abolitionists.
A lot of the inventions we have in general were created by Black people.
Right.
Like a really big proportion of them in America were created by Black people. And like the things that you would never think of that are created by a Black person, they are.
Well,
a lot of the candy that we eat nowadays was created during the Great Depression by abolitionists against the system. Yep. I researched that and found that out.
Arm ourselves with knowledge.
Right. So we're gonna cut this episode today for Arm Yourself with Knowledge, and we are gonna come back on in just a little bit. I don't know, I guess it's like 20-25 minutes. Just take a bathroom break, and we will be coming back on with revolutionary news. So stay tuned, and we'll be back in about 20 to 30 minutes. So come back.